Hello ladies and gentlemen, Panzer here, and we're back with some more Elite Dangerous. Now this is a game I haven't touched for a very long time, and there's been a lot of changes since we last looked at it on the channel. Actually, coming up to a year ago now. So, what's new, right? So we've had the Power Plays update, and now comes the big one. We're looking at the Horizons beta at the moment, and this is going to be going into full launch, I believe, as by the time this video comes out, actually. So let's have a look at what's new in Horizons, and let's start with the big one. So you can see right here in the bottom left, this is a planetary outpost, and that is the newest and biggest thing in Horizons. We now have planetary interaction, and anyone who's followed me on Twitter will know that I've been very critical, or at least a little bit skeptical, of the pricing model for the Horizons update. After all, it is basically the same price as the full game, and anybody who picks up Horizons will have a copy of the base Elite Dangerous game in there, so anybody who bought it early does seem to get a little bit, I guess, screwed out of the price, really. But what Horizons actually is a three-part expansion. So the first part is including this planetary interaction side of things. So we're currently on the TNC system, and these are systems that we can actually, or rather, this is a system that has planets we can actually land on. Now, currently, if we have a look at the system map, there are limited planets that we can actually interact with. At the moment, it's planets that do not have an atmosphere. Planets that have an atmosphere will probably be coming later on. So, assuming it's not available at launch, it will probably be some time after that. So let's have a look at what's available here. So we have high metal content worlds, and currently we're here on a rocky body. And it looks like those that don't have a planetary map are those that we can't land on. So you can see here where the planetary map option is white, we can actually interact with that planet. So there are a fair number that we can actually do that with all the way over here. These do not have that, and these, as you can tell, are those with atmospheres. So each planet is slightly different. They all have a sort of different surface. Once the atmospheres are added, those are going to play a part as well. But let's launch now. Let's have a look at how that actually works. Now, of course, the ship I am in is one of the unique backer ships that are going to be available. I'm not sure if this is going to be available to everybody, but we shall see about that. So, at the moment, right now, the ship I'm in is the Cobra Mark IV, which we'll talk a little bit about as we get along. So, right now, I'm actually flying within the gravitational well of the actual planet, and this is normal flight. This is 100% normal flight, and you can see it is right over the planet's surface, and we can have a little bit of a look at the actual surface itself. It's quite barren. There isn't a lot to see right now, and we're about 1 kilometer off the actual surface. So this is using normal planetary flight. In fact, if a little bit too far away for the actual spotlights to see the actual surface. But what we're going to do is we're going to have a look at the actual orbital mechanics and how we actually get into the planetary landings and so forth. So I'm going to charge up the FSD right now, and once we're about 40 degrees up, we can actually escape the gravitational pull. So as we know, the frameshift drive allows you to fly in supercruise around planets, but every time you go near a planet, it will slow you down because of very technical reasons. One being the mass of the actual planet, and much other reasons besides, but main thing is you do notice that slowdown, and right now we're traveling at 2.5 kilometers a second, so definitely not a typical supercruise speed. But once we go up some more, in fact, we're going to pitch all the way up to 45 degrees now. and just let it climb. So this is a new thing that's been added as well. The descent indicator on the right of the HUD and this heads-up display is all new, and it's specifically designed for the planetary landing system. Now, in order to do any of this, a ship must be equipped with something known as a planetary... In fact, I'm not sure if I can even show you it on here. It's something called a planetary approach module. So now we've actually escaped the gravitational pull of the planet. And if we come back into it, you can see right here, it has engaged orbital flight. So if we keep it within the blue zone, we can maintain our distance from the planet. What orbital flight essentially means is that we are within the gravitational well of the planet, and keeping it in the blue zone will allow us to fly at somewhat normal speed and orbit the planet very, very quickly. If we go further than that, we return back to normal supercruise. So what I want to do now is show you how to approach a planet. So let's keep the nav indicator there. And let's try to keep our angle of attack a little bit lower than normal so we don't descend too quickly. Of course, we can just pitch all the way down. You can see the descent indicator start to increase, or rather start to grow downwards, and that actually indicates our approach speed to the planet. You don't want to do that too fast, and of course, as we can probably expect, once atmospheric flight is a thing, we will probably end up with re-entry friction and all sorts of other things, which will probably cause some damage to the ship if you were doing that a little bit too quickly. You might also notice at the bottom right of the HUD there is actually a set of coordinates, so if you are interacting with other players, you do actually have coordinates to indicate location data. And below that as well, you have a gravitational indicator, or a G meter. So currently this planet has 0.12 Gs, or I guess 12% of normal gravity, I guess, if that's the easiest way of saying it. Now, before I drop any further, you can see on the altimeter there is actually two indicators there, one that says OC, which is further up. That is the orbital cruise maximum. And DRP is the drop altitude. So if you want to initiate a planetary landing, you must be below the drop altitude. So now we're 34, close to 35 kilometers above the surface. If we start to drop any further than that, we will actually initiate a slowdown. And beyond that, once we break the minimum, which I believe is just under 29 kilometers from the planet. In fact, it might even be 26 or 25. So we will be dropped from orbital cruise. But we're still going a lot faster than normal. We're in fact going at 2,500 right now. And this is something known as an orbital glide. So we do want to keep our throttle within the blue zone and keep our descent in the blue zone as well. The descent indicator is showing that we are dropping quite fast, but I'm assuming that's probably a beta feature and it's not really showing the accurate distance yet. So right now, if we keep it within the blue zone, we will go all the way down and complete the orbital glide and return to normal flight above the surface. So you can see here, the speed indicator is now showing a normal speed, and we are within planetary boundaries. A couple of things to take note of when flying within a planetary environment is that you will notice turbulence. In fact, I'm using mouse flight, and you will notice this with a HOTAS as well, that the attitude of the ship tends to bounce around quite significantly. In particular, the pitch of the ship tends to want to climb and level off. Now, I'm not sure if this is pilot assist doing that, or whether or not there is genuine turbulence with regards to the way the thrusters and all of that are actually working. Either way, we continue to descend, and you can see the indicator there now shows one line just above where it says surf. Now that's not surfing as in catching some nice waves, that's actually an indicator showing the actual surface altitude. So right now we're 4 kilometers above the surface, or rather the minimum surface height, where we can start triggering a landing procedure. So we're going to continue dropping. Our rate of descent is still within tolerance, so we can actually start descending much further than that. But of course, we are still controlling our speed. And you can see if I turn flight assist off and not touch the throttle, our speed starts to increase, and that's the actual effect of gravity, interestingly enough, affecting our flight. So now we're below 2 kilometers from the surface, and we're about to begin a proper descent procedure, so I want to probably try and level off and look for a flat surface to land on. Well, one thing to take note of, the sense of scale when looking at the surface of most of the rocky and icy planets is quite easy to miss. In fact, things look much further away than they really are. Looking at the surface now, there's no landmarks to really indicate the scale of the thing, so how far away we are from the actual planet's surface can be something that's really easily missed. So you want to pay attention to your heads-up display and sort of prepare yourself for that actual distance. We are getting close to 500 meters above the surface, but it really doesn't look like we are. And that could be a big problem if you're not careful, because you'll probably find yourself scraping along the ground before you even know that you're that close to it. Now, planets as well, because of their gravitational pull, will trigger a mass lock when you're below the minimum height. So you can't initiate a supercruise or a jump from this range, and you do actually have to escape gravity before you do that. So there's a couple of things to take note of. So what I want to do, turn on my ship lights and lower my landing gear. And as we continue to descend, we will eventually get landing gear deployed. There it is. We now have a surface map. And that is depicting the actual deformation in the terrain. So now we're getting closer to the planet's surface. In fact, we're approaching 100 meters now. So as you can see, the ship indicator in the bottom there is flashing blue, and that's indicating spots that we can actually land on. So if I slow down here, it'll allow us to have a landing indicator there. So we can see at the bottom there the ship is blue, and we are drifting a little bit actually. So what it's trying to do is get us to align to the actual surface so that we land square on instead of at an angle. And that's because the actual surface is not particularly even. So we do want to keep that alignment there. I think we are actually landing on the slight slope here. I'm going to try and find something that's a little bit more even there. This does appear to be quite rough terrain, so we want to go a little bit further away and try to land there. So this does appear to be quite a steep slope that we're going to land on. So let's align there, and then simple pulsing of the downward thrusters. You don't want to do this too quickly. You can actually even hear, it's very nice sound assets as well. You can hear the sound of the engines. And there we are, we have touched down on the actual surface. It's quite nice actually, the whole system. But now that we've landed, what else can we do? The engines have powered down. In fact, if we go into our modules, you can see the actual thrusters have completely switched off. But what can we actually do? Well, if you have something equipped known as a planetary vehicle hangar, you can actually store planetary vehicles. So now, pressing the 3 key, we can actually see we have our ship, and we have something known as an SRV. So we just hit deploy on that. And after a slight transition, here we are on the SRV. And here we go. Alright, so the SRV is essentially a little land rover, or I guess a moon rover if you want to call it that, as we drive around. We actually use the mouse to steer. It does take a little bit of getting used to. And it's quite quick, actually. Now, it does have weapons. But I haven't bound those controls yet. So, of course, we do want to be a little bit conservative about our actual speed here. You might be wondering, okay, so you can drive around on this planet, and then what? Well, here's the thing. The actual planets are populated by a number of things. So if we just go through our contacts, at the moment we can't see that. But on the actual planets you will see neutral objects in certain places, and these are actual materials. Now, you might be thinking, what materials are they? Are they commodities that we can trade, or are they like the cargo canisters that you occasionally see on floating out in space that you can pick up? Well, they're actually part of an entirely new system. So let's go and take a look at that. Alright, so now that we've landed closer to the planetary base, there are a number of contacts that are popping up. Several of these are not actually being detected properly. You can see it's making all sorts of a mess on our sensors there. So, what has been changed, in fact, is now we have a new inventory screen. So previously, inventory was only ship cargo. Now it contains two new tabs. So, ship cargo, exactly the same as what it was before. But now it even displays pricing, and we can set specific filters as well. So we can actually have a look at that, and we can set different filters for, you know, whatever it happens to be. So if you want to display mission cargo only, that's another thing that's been done for us. Now, if we have a look at materials, this is where the items that we pick up from planetary surfaces will be stored. Now, this is different to cargoes in the sense that it's not a tradable commodity, at least as far as I know. But what it's actually used for is something called synthesis. So synthesis is basically what we have, or in layman's terms, it's a sort of temporary buff or upgrade that we can do. And this is done by injecting certain amounts of materials, which will allow us to do all sorts of different things. So in this case, you can see, to have an FSD injection, we will get a bonus of 25% to our jump range at the basic level, all the way up to 100% jump range increase by having these following materials. So it's sort of like crafting an upgrade, but it's, as far as I understand it, it's a temporary upgrade. And we even have upgrades to munitions, which will give us bonus damage. We have upgrades of all kinds here. In fact, all the way up to large caliber weapons, we have all of those things. And we can even refill our ammo right here for the field maintenance module. So that's another thing that we can do. And in fact, it also boosts the repair speed of it. And more things besides. The SRV is also capable of doing that, and we can refuel it, repair it, and restock its ammo from here as well. So there's a lot of things that we can do. So having access to a planet that is rich in the materials that you use very often, for example, if you're an explorer, you probably want a lot of jump range, and the same goes for traders. So being close enough to a planet that has the materials we want could be very, very beneficial. And the way we go about doing these, if we can just have a look at it here, I don't believe any of them are showing up on the scanners at the moment. So let's deploy our SRV and have a look around. Now, I was going to show you one of the materials that we can pick up, but what I've actually discovered is a drone over here. So this is actually one of the planetary ships that you will eventually see around planetary bases, and these are sort of defensive drones that they have around. And amongst other things, they also have ground-based turrets and possibly even SRVs of their own. For example, over there, that's a sentry that's flying around there. And these are things that SRVs typically are not equipped to take on, unless in future you might have access to more powerful ground vehicles that can probably do the job. But the basic SRV is kind of a jack-of-all-trades, kind of exploration vehicle and gathering vehicle, so it's not particularly good just for all-out combat, so that's something to bear in mind. It does have a forward-firing gun and it does have a turret, but both of these things are definitely not equipped for long engagements or really a particularly sustained combat of any kind. So that's something to bear in mind. But yeah, so that's really it for the planetary interactions for now. Of course, if you have any questions, please feel free to post them in the comments down below, and do let me know what you think of the Horizons update, expansion, or whatsoever. And we'll be taking a look at more of the content as time goes on. We definitely will be looking at some of the new ships and some of the new outfitting options as it comes along. I'm probably going to save the more in-depth look at the Cobra Mark IV for a separate video on its own, because I think that has quite a bit to cover, especially when comparing it to the Mark III. So I will do that in the days to come, so do keep an eye on the channel for those videos. Thank you very much for watching. My name is Panzer, taking a look at the Elite Dangerous Horizons first part expansion and its planetary interactions, and I'll see you next time.